When God steps into the battlefield of your life, everything changes. The storms that once terrified you grow silent. The enemies that once shouted against you lose their voice. When God fights for you, no weapon formed against you can prosper. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who brought down the walls of Jericho, who shut the mouths of lions, is the same God fighting for you right now. You may not see him, but he's there, moving, protecting, and working in ways you cannot imagine. There are times when you've done all you can, when you've prayed, when you've cried, when you've stood your ground, and yet the opposition seems louder, stronger, and relentless. That's when God says, "Be still and know that I am God." He's reminding you that the battle was never yours to begin with. The battle belongs to him. You are not meant to fight every fight. You are meant to stand in faith and watch him show his glory through your situation. Sometimes God allows your enemies to rise up, not to destroy you, but to display his power through you. Remember Pharaoh? He thought he could trap God's people between the Red Sea and his army. But God turned that moment of fear into a miracle of deliverance. The sea opened, his people walked through, and when Pharaoh tried to follow, God silenced him forever. When God fights for you, the voices that once mocked you will have no more words to speak. You may be surrounded by doubters, critics, and those who wish to see you fall. But when God raises his hand, their words fall to the ground. They can scheme, they can whisper, but they cannot stand against the purpose of God in your life. You don't have to answer every accusation or defend yourself before every critic. Let God speak for you. His justice speaks louder than your defense. His favor is your response. There will come a day when those who tried to harm you will have to watch as God elevates you. They'll see the same person they doubted walking in peace, walking in strength, walking in victory. When God vindicates you, he does it publicly. He doesn't just defeat your enemies, he silences them. They will have no words left, because what can anyone say when God himself declares, "This is my child, and I have fought for them"? If you're walking through a season of battle, don't let fear consume you. Don't let the noise around you shake your faith. God is not sleeping. He's positioning himself for your breakthrough. You may feel small, but the one fighting for you is mighty. You may feel outnumbered, but you are never alone. Heaven's armies move at his command, and his word is still sharper than any sword. Every enemy that rises against you will fall before the presence of the Lord. Every tongue that speaks against you will be silenced. God's power doesn't just protect you. It restores you. It strengthens your faith. It reminds the world that no one can stand against a child of God when the Almighty fights on their behalf. When God takes control of the battle, every force that rises against you loses its power, and every voice that spoke against you is silenced, because his authority overrides all human plans and opposition. The challenges and enemies you face are not meant to destroy you, but to reveal God's strength through your weakness, proving that he alone is the defender and deliverer of those who trust in him. True faith is not about fighting every battle on your own, but learning to be still, trusting that God's timing and power will bring victory in ways far greater than your own strength ever could. When God fights for you, he doesn't just defeat your enemies. He exposes their intentions, reverses their plots, and turns what was meant to harm you into a testimony of his glory and faithfulness. God's silence in the middle of conflict is not his absence. It's his preparation for a greater move, one that will leave your enemies speechless and your life transformed by His divine intervention. Every victory God gives you is not just personal, it's a public declaration that He protects His children, silences false voices, and exalts those who stand firm in faith even when surrounded by opposition. When God steps into your battle, the entire atmosphere changes. What once looked impossible suddenly begins to shift. The voices that tried to discourage you, the people who doubted you, the circumstances that seemed too heavy to bear, all of it starts to lose its power under the authority of God. His presence carries a weight that silences confusion and destroys fear. When He speaks, the enemy trembles, because no weapon, no accusation, and no plan can stand against the will of the Almighty. You don't have to argue or prove yourself when God fights for you. His actions speak louder than any word you could ever say. There are moments when the enemy's voice is loud, when lies echo around you, and when it feels like your faith is being shaken from every side. But when God rises to defend you, those voices begin to fade into silence. His authority drowns out every whisper of doubt, every shout of fear, every sound of opposition. The God who created the universe does not need permission to act. He moves in power, and everything that stands against you must bow before Him. When God's power enters the situation, it doesn't just weaken your enemies, it dismantles their strength completely. Their words lose impact, their plans fall apart, their confidence turns into confusion. God's light exposes what was hidden in darkness, revealing every false motive and every evil intent. Suddenly, the enemy who once seemed so strong becomes powerless, unable to speak or move against the will of God. You may not always see how He's working, but you can feel it. You can sense the peace that comes when He takes over, the calm that settles in your spirit when you realize you're not fighting alone. The battle that once felt overwhelming becomes a platform for His glory. He fights not just to protect you, but to demonstrate that His power is greater than anything formed against you. And when He moves, the world will see that no one can speak against the one whom God Himself has chosen to defend. The battles and challenges that rise against you are not random. They are divine opportunities for God to reveal His strength through your weakness. Sometimes He allows the storm to rage so that His power can be seen more clearly in the calm that follows. When the enemy surrounds you, when life feels like it's closing in from every direction, God is not distant. He's positioning Himself to show you that victory doesn't come from your effort, but from His hand. Every obstacle becomes a canvas on which His power is painted, every hardship a stage for His glory to shine. When you stand in front of what seems like an unmovable mountain, remember that God specializes in impossible situations. He lets the odds stack up against you so that when He delivers you, there will be no doubt about who deserves the glory. Your enemies may believe they have the upper hand, but God uses their confidence against them. He turns their plans into pathways for your promotion, just as He did with Joseph, who was betrayed and forgotten yet rose to power through divine timing. God will use the very things meant to harm you as instruments of your destiny. When you rely on your own strength, the battle feels heavy and endless. But when you surrender and let God lead, the same battle becomes your blessing. He doesn't just remove your enemies, He transforms your fear into faith, your pain into purpose. What you thought was meant to break you becomes the fire that refines you. The trial that seemed unbearable becomes the testimony that strengthens others. God never wastes a fight. Every challenge has meaning, every opposition has purpose, and every setback is a setup for His greater plan. When you stop fighting in your own power and let Him take over, you discover that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. The moment you let go of control, God steps in, and the same forces that came to defeat you will witness the power of the one who fights for you. There comes a moment in every believer's life when God asks them not to fight, but to trust. It's in those moments when your strength is gone, when your prayers feel unanswered, and when every door seems closed, that God whispers, "Be still." It's not a command of weakness, but of faith, because true strength is not found in striving, but in surrender. When you stop wrestling with your situation and let God take control, you begin to see that His power works best in the stillness of trust. Sometimes we think victory comes from action, from fighting harder or speaking louder. But there's a deeper victory that comes only through stillness. When you stand firm in faith and refuse to be moved by what you see. God doesn't need your frantic effort. He needs your full confidence in Him. The Israelites learned this when they stood before the Red Sea with an army behind them. They were terrified, but Moses said, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." That same voice echoes through your battles today. Being still doesn't mean doing nothing. It means trusting everything to God's hands. It's choosing to believe that even in silence, He's working. It's resting in His promise that He will never leave you nor forsake you. When you stop trying to fix what only God can handle, you make room for miracles. The moment you step aside, He steps in. The storms that once roared begin to calm, not because you shouted at them, but because His presence commands peace. Faith that stands still is not passive, it's powerful. It says, "God, I trust you even when I don't understand." It says, "I believe you're fighting for me even when I can't see the battle." And it's that kind of faith that moves heaven to act. When you choose to stand in stillness, you are declaring that your confidence is not in your ability, but in His victory. And when you take that posture of faith, God begins to move mountains that no human effort ever could. When God fights for you, He doesn't just defeat what stands against you. He reveals what has been hidden in the shadows. He exposes the motives of those who pretended to be for you, but worked quietly against you. His light cuts through every layer of deception, revealing the truth for what it is. You don't have to waste your breath trying to uncover every lie or defend yourself from every rumor. God's justice is perfect, and when He moves, everything false crumbles under the weight of His truth. What the enemy built in secret, God will bring to light for the world to see. He takes the weapons formed against you and turns them into tools for your testimony. What your enemies meant to use for your destruction becomes the very evidence of God's protection. The schemes of those who plotted in darkness become the backdrop for His glory to shine brighter. When He fights, He doesn't simply end the battle, He reverses it. The pit they dug for you becomes the place where they fall. The trap they set becomes their own undoing. Just as He did with Haman in the story of Esther, God flips the story so that what was meant to shame you becomes your moment of honor. God never loses a fight, and He never fights halfway. When He acts, it's complete, it's final, and it leaves no question about who holds the power. Your enemies may have spoken confidently before, but after God's intervention, their voices fade. They stand in awe, unable to explain how you made it through what should have destroyed you. It's because God turned their attack into your advancement. Every time God fights for you, He not only silences your enemies, but elevates you beyond their reach. He uses their opposition as a stepping stone for your purpose. He proves that no matter who rises against you, no plan can stand when he decides to favor you. The same voices that once doubted you will witness your victory and know that it wasn't by your might, but by the hand of the living God who never fails. When God seems silent in your battle, it's not because he's forgotten you. It's because he's preparing a victory so powerful that silence is the only sound that fits its magnitude. His quietness is not absence, it's strategy. While you wait, he's moving pieces you can't see, arranging moments, softening hearts, and shifting circumstances in your favor. You may look around and think nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, heaven is at work. Every second of his silence carries purpose, every delay holds meaning, and every unanswered prayer is a setup for something greater than you imagine. Sometimes God hides his hand so that your faith can grow stronger. When you can't trace his movement, you must learn to trust his motive. Silence forces you to lean not on what you feel, but on what you know. That he is faithful, that he is good, that he never loses a fight. In the quiet, he's teaching you patience, endurance, and dependence. He's showing you that his voice doesn't need to shout for his will to be done. One word from him, spoken at the right moment, will accomplish more than 1,000 of your efforts. When he finally moves, everything changes at once. The enemies that once roared become silent. The voices that mocked your faith fade away, because what can they say when God himself defends you? His timing exposes every lie and ends every argument. Those who questioned your journey will have no words left when they see how God turns your waiting into a testimony of his power. His silence is sacred because it's where trust is built. It's where fear is defeated and faith matures. You learn to stop depending on noise and start recognizing his presence in the stillness. When God finally speaks, his words don't just bring victory, they bring peace. And when that peace fills your heart, every enemy that once tried to disturb your spirit is silenced, because no voice can compete with the quiet strength of a God who speaks through both thunder and stillness. When God gives you victory, it's never meant to be hidden. It becomes a public declaration of his faithfulness. He doesn't just deliver you quietly, he lifts you where others can see what his power can do. The same people who doubted you, who spoke against you, who expected your downfall, will witness the undeniable proof that God was with you all along. His victory is not about showing your strength, but revealing his glory through your life. When God fights for you, he makes sure the outcome brings honor to his name and peace to your heart. Every battle you've faced carries a divine purpose beyond your own story. God uses your struggle to inspire someone else's faith, your endurance to strengthen another believer's hope. The victory he gives you is not only a personal blessing, but a message to the world that he still protects, defends, and exalts his children. When he silences your enemies, it's not out of vengeance, it's out of love. He's teaching the world that his people are never abandoned, that no voice can rise against those covered by his grace. There is something powerful about the moment when God turns your pain into praise. What was once a wound becomes a testimony. The tears you cried in secret become a river of joy flowing in the open. People see the peace in your eyes and realize it could only come from the one who restores. Every scar becomes evidence of his mercy, every victory a reflection of his promise that no weapon formed against you will prosper. When God elevates you, he doesn't do it quietly. He does it so that others may know his hand is mighty. your life becomes a living reminder that faith still works, that prayer still moves mountains, and that God still fights for his people. The same mouths that spoke against you will one day speak of what he has done for you. And in that moment, your victory will not just silence your enemies, but proclaim to everyone watching that the power of God never fails. There comes a time when you realize that every battle, every tear, every silent night was never wasted. It was all shaping your faith, strengthening your spirit, and preparing you for the moment when God himself would step in and fight for you. You may have been surrounded, misunderstood, and underestimated, but none of it went unnoticed by heaven. God saw your endurance. He heard your cries. He watched every moment when you kept believing even when nothing made sense. And now, he is ready to turn your struggle into strength and your weakness into victory. When he fights for you, every force against you loses its voice because his authority silences everything that dares to challenge his purpose for your life. You've come through seasons where you wondered if God had forgotten you. You faced situations that seemed impossible to escape. But what you didn't see was that in those moments, God was writing a greater story, a story where his power would be revealed through your perseverance. The battles that once broke you are the very battles that now testify of his faithfulness. He never left you. He never failed you. He was fighting for you even when you didn't know it. And when the time was right, he spoke one word, and everything that stood against you had to bow. The same God who fought for David against Goliath, who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, who walked through the fire with the 3 Hebrew boys, that same God is fighting for you today. You may not see the full picture, but he's already gone ahead of you. He's already prepared the victory. Every weapon formed against you will be destroyed. Every word spoken against you will fall silent. And every enemy that tried to rise against you will see the power of the living God at work in your life. God doesn't just deliver his people, he vindicates them. He doesn't just rescue you quietly, he does it in a way that no one can deny his hand was upon you. When he restores you, he does it in full view of those who said it would never happen. He takes what was meant to destroy you and uses it to elevate you. He turns the battlefield into a place of blessing and the pain into a platform for his glory. That's how he works with precision, power, and purpose. Maybe right now you're still waiting for that victory. Maybe the fight feels endless and the silence feels heavy. But hold on, because God's silence is never abandonment. It's preparation. He's aligning everything for your breakthrough. He's removing what doesn't belong, exposing what's hidden, and strengthening your faith for what's coming. When the battle ends, and it will, you'll look back and realize that his hand was guiding you through every step. You'll see that every delay was divine timing, every disappointment was redirection, and every attack was proof that something greater was on the way. There will come a day when you no longer have to explain yourself, defend yourself, or fight for yourself, because God will speak for you. He will silence every lie, shut every mouth that rose against you, and lift you higher than those who tried to bring you down. The same voices that once doubted you will see your peace, your strength, and your blessing, and they will know it was the hand of God. When God fights for you, your enemies can't speak, because no argument can stand against divine victory. The story ends not in defeat, but in glory. The glory of a God who never loses, never forgets, and never fails to defend his own.